Hey, good evening. What's going on, everybody? Good evening, man. We're back in the building. I'm so excited again for another episode. So I'm just happy to be here, happy to be back in the building, and happy for this thing to keep going. So I hope everybody is doing well, and I hope all is well with everybody. And we're just gonna keep this thing going. So uh, again, welcome back, episode 42. Episode 42. So make sure that you let me know where you're tuning in from. Jump in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. And again, I don't take this lightly. I'm just so grateful and so happy for another episode, another week. So, hey, as again, make sure you share this with somebody because tonight show is another good topic, another topic that we're gonna get down in the weeds of things and just have a good conversation. Conversation that hopefully leads to a better understanding. And a better understanding leads to a better way of life. So, because really, in life, it's all about getting understanding. And once we gain understanding, we'll find that our quality of life grows and grows. So, I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share this post. So, give me 1 second. Make sure that you share. And I know we already got some comments coming in. We got Miss Valeda Page Banks. Hey, good evening. Good evening. She's tuning in from Greensboro, Alabama, the metropolis of Greensboro, Alabama. So again, thank you guys so much, Miss Page Banks. I really appreciate your enduring support. It truly means a lot. Thank you so much. And again, man, share this. Let some people know that you're here because tonight I'm pretty sure that we want to jump in and be a part of this conversation. Again, but all in all, man, I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to. I'm just looking forward to talking tonight. Growing up, somebody, the Shepherds. We're known for having conversations, and I'm just excited about keeping this one going. Not only keeping this conversation going, but I am excited about just the opportunity to engage in dialogue and have a platform where we can talk about things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. People deal with it. They and a lot of people struggle and trying to balance it or navigate through it. And I just really feel like it is necessary to have these conversations. But again, I want to start off by just saying, hey, congratulations to all of the graduates out there. We have people graduating all around who have graduated already, people getting ready to graduate. I know here in Kansas and Junction City is some kids that were born when I was stationed at Fort Riley when I first got here to Fort Riley back in 2003, and now they're graduating high school. So like it's kind of crazy, man, that time don't stop for nobody. But I'm just excited to see that life continues to happen. And, kids are growing, and it's a great accomplishment. A lot of great accomplishment and a lot of new challenges. Because I would tell you this, and I want to say this, a shout out to all those that's graduating. I'm going to tell you this, right? There's a lot of things that I was very confident about myself 23 years ago when I graduated high school. And I felt like, that I was ready to take on the world. In a lot of ways I was. But I will tell you this, it is wise to learn from lessons, the hard lessons learned from others, instead of being prideful and feeling like you got to bump your head against the wall just to get the lesson. So what am I saying? Talk to the people that have been down that road before. You may not think it, but I remember looking at my dad and was like, man, my dad was a preacher. Like, man, a lot of stuff, man, that dude don't know, man. But I'm telling you, he was a man and he had experience, and just leverage that experience. Enjoy yourself, celebrate this accomplishment. But hey, don't just stop there. Continue to work to get a plan and to be able to not only work that plan, but to be able to navigate and start working towards your goals. Because guess what? You have the power. You have the power to influence where you want to be in your life, despite where you come from. Because guess what? You're good enough. You're good enough. And one thing that I do appreciate by growing up in Greensboro, Alabama, is I had some exceptional teachers, exceptional people that I grew up around that really influenced me to be the best that I can be. And when I went out into the world, I was not intimidated at all. And I found that I was more than prepared to be successful in life. All of that over with. Shout out to all the graduates. And we just want to get right into this topic. So it was funny. Before that, man, you have your nostalgia moment. And I was in the Family Dollar, and I went in the back, and I seen they had these old Donald Duck. I don't know if y'all can see it, but the Donald Duck juices. They had the Donald Duck fruit punch and the Donald Duck apple juice. Man, I just had some flashbacks to my childhood memory on that Donald Duck juice. So I just had to grab one and wanted to make sure I let y'all know I'm getting a nice little cold swig of it while we talking. But let's jump right into it. Again, thank you guys so much. Episode 42. Just want to keep this thing going. But Miss Paige Banks said something. My mom said, "Good evening." Thank you, Mom. I love you, Mama D. Miss Paige Banks, she said, "I really appreciate all the help this show has enlightened me on and helped me. To God be the glory." Yes, ma'am. To God be the glory. Portia, what's up, Portia? Hey, Portia, what's going on? So, yeah, Mr. Pep said you weren't the only one who thought they were ready to take on the world when fresh out of high school. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I want to tell people that I'm not trying to shame your confidence or push you down. No, that's not. I'm just telling you, don't make the mistakes we made. Talk to the people that already been down that road so you don't have to make those mistakes. It just doesn't make much sense that we, because of our pride, we learn hard. But let's get into the subject. The power in taking ownership of the roles you played in unfavorable situations. So I wanted to start off because I think this topic is a very good topic because it's so easy for us. It's a natural thing to point the blame at somebody else. It's so easy to point the blame at somebody else. It's so easy to find what's wrong, what somebody it's so easy to find something wrong with what somebody did to us or what we felt like somebody did to us. It's so easy to point the blame and say to point the blame and say woe is me. It's so natural and so easy to do that. But what I found is in my walk in life is the times in which we are able to not only identify, but just to clear up yourself, just stating facts. Not only identify, but take ownership. Seriously take ownership of the roles we play. I asked a question about a month ago on my page, and surprisingly, I got a lot of response to it. But I was like, for those that have been in long-term relationships or marriages, what role did you play into it dissolving? And there was a plethora of answers. A lot of them. One I remember over his family, and the other one was just saying about communications. The other one was saying about, respect and all these different things. But I will tell you, there's something that's powerful. And when you take ownership of what you do, I can remember this, and I'm sharing this because I can remember when I was sharing with my mom. I think I was 9 years old. It was when we were staying in Uniontown before we moved to Sawyerville. Because we moved to Sawyerville my 5th grade year. And I can remember, I can't remember what was done, but I remember my sisters and I, we did something, and I was like the ringleader, and in the sense of what we doing something, and Mama was holding us accountable, and I just didn't feel right about my sisters because we were going, we was gonna ride or die, we were gonna go down together, and I just didn't feel comfortable with my sisters being held accountable for something that I was responsible for. So I spoke up. And I was like, nah, Mom, that was on me. And my mother did like any mother did. She whipped my butt. She disciplined me. But I can remember getting in the car, riding with my mom, and we was riding down towards, it was in Uniontown, heading down towards, I can't remember. Was heading where we usually, on those back roads where we usually go to Vacation Bible, I'm not Vacation Bible, but Mad Sunday School at. And I remember this vividly. My mom said, Robert, I consider you a man because a man is someone who takes responsibility for their actions. And as a 9-year-old child, those words they rung out, and they was like very, very powerful to me. And like a light bulb went out. And from that moment, I took pride in taking ownership. That doesn't mean that it's fun. That doesn't mean that it's something that feel good doing. But yeah, I got disciplined, but there was a sense of pride of taking ownership of what I did. And that made me think about a lot of things. So last Sunday, I spoke on about Joseph and the title of the sermon that I spoke, the message that I spoke was Anointed Yet Still in Bondage. And I was just talking about the story of Joseph, and this is what made me this is what really made me want to kind of continue that and have this conversation here, because that's a lot of things that happen to us in life is a result of us not having the wrong mindset. May not be that we are doing something wrong, but we have the wrong mindset. That doesn't mean that your destiny or your giftings or all of those things, you can't operate in it, but you never would seem to break the window or break the mold, because we always seem to be operating at a deficiency. And what I brought out in one of the things that I brought out in the message that I spoke, I talked about Joseph and Joseph having the wrong mentality. One of the things that and three topics that I spoke about. One of the things is, the first one was like what we talked about, is you have to take ownership of the roles you played that contributed to you being in bondage, or contributed you being in that situation. You got to take ownership of the role you played. Two is you can be in bondage, operating in your anointing or your gift, and still be prosperous. And I will go on and talk about that. And then third one was, your pain and your trauma may not have been your fault, but your healing is your responsibility, because your destiny or your purpose is dependent on it. Now, the first one I talk about, you have to take ownership of the role that you played and that contributed to you being in abundance. Now, for those that may not be familiar, in the 37th chapter of Genesis, if you go read that, and you read like the first 3 verses, it was very interesting to me. And I read that passage of scripture, and I've heard many people speak. People talk about Joseph was a dreamer, and people talk about all these things about Joseph, and that's what God revealed some things to Joseph, that Joseph was going to be elevated, that, the stars and the moon bow before him, and all this, that, and the third. But when you go back and you read the beginning of the 37th chapter of Genesis, what you will find is it starts out talking about Joseph. But it talks about Joseph being the youngest child of Jacob, or Israel. Jacob, whose name will change to Israel, and that he was Joseph, Israel's favorite child. And it talks about how Joseph was in the field with his older brothers, but was going to his dad to give his dad a bad report about his brothers. Joseph, and I was like, dang. So what that means, Joseph started out snitching on his brothers, going to tell daddy. And you can tell that when they say he was a favorite child, he the baby. Babies don't do nothing. And the portion on here, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. But babies in the family typically get away with murder, right? Because a lot of times parents older, they ain't on all that crazy stuff that they used to be. But the siblings look at like, man, you ain't doing nothing. You don't make them do nothing like you made us do. Automatically start off with snitching, telling on him. Then when he had the dream, His head blew up. Y'all gonna bow before me and all this, that, and the third. And he even told his mom and his dad. And why am I saying that? What I begin to see is, I'm not saying that I would have want Joseph to be killed or sold into slavery like he was eventually what happened to him. But I could understand now. And a lot of it, Joseph's attitude, his mentality contributed to him being sold into slavery. Now, if you go on and you go on to the 40th chapter, 39th and 40th chapter of Genesis, and you'll see how Joseph was sold into slavery. And then the Bible started talking about how Joseph was able to operate in his gift, because even as a slave, he was elevated to second in charge in Potiphar's house. And then when Potiphar's wife pursued him, and he didn't partake in her advances, I'll put it like that. She lied and said that he raped her, and he was placed in jail. When he went to jail, he was placed in charge of jail. So he was operating his gift and his anointing. But when he ended up interpreting a dream for the cupbearer and the baker, Joseph still had the wrong, woe is me. I was this, I was that. And I said all that because Joseph didn't take ownership for the role he played. Listen, there's a lot of things that happened to me in my life. There are some things that are going to happen to you in your life that you ain't got nothing to do. That's outside of your control. There are some things that's just going to happen, but they are very few far in between. Most of the stuff that happened to us, there's something that we contributed to it. And the goal is, what are we looking at? What are some things that we're going to do to identify those things and start taking ownership of it? Start taking ownership of it. For real. I mean, dead serious. Because I'm being honest with you, there's a time limit associated to a lot of stuff. I'm 41 years old. 41. I'm 41. I've been out of high school 23 years. I've been out of high school 5 years longer than I lived in my parents' house. So if something that happened to me in my parents' house from the ages of 1 to 18, and I'm 41 now, and I'm still dealing with that, and I'm still blaming other people for that, bro, I got to start taking ownership for my inactions. What role that I do? Because I'm sitting there wanting them to feel something, and that's why I'm talking about forgiveness and because forgiveness ain't about the other people, man. You made that decision to hold on to that bitterness. You've made that decision to harbor unforgiveness. You made that decision to allow bitterness to come into your heart. You made that decision, but you blaming everybody else. And we got to get to a point where we start taking ownership of this. Ownership. That's in anything, but ownership. Take the power of taking ownership in the roles you played. I shared a post the other day about I shared it on my story, and it was a meme, and the meme said, if you tell the truth, it becomes part of your past. But if you lie, it becomes part of your future. Now, I say that because taking ownership takes whatever mistakes, whatever incident, whatever problem, whatever it may have been, it takes that and it put it part of your past. You own it now. You own it and you can move on from it. But when you don't take ownership, you always going to have to continue to do. I know it's fearful. I know it's fearful. There's a lot of things that there's some things, and we all have different areas where we can be strong in, where we don't have no problem. We go head for it. And there's other areas where we don't, we may not be we may not be as confident in. But we have to get to a place to where I'm going to own what I did. And there's power in that. There's power. There's power. And I realized, like, I started thinking, like, me as a father, one of the things that as a father, what I look for is, and I think that I look for the willingness, or what are my kids doing to take ownership for the role, like their actions in any situation. If you come to me and you just like, well, what happened? Well, I don't know, or they made me, I'm getting mad at you. I'm getting mad because you're allowing other people to control you. You're allowing other people to influence you beyond the point where you can't make a decision for yourself. And how I look at that, I'm like, man, I started to think, I was like, dang, that's how God kind of look at us. Well, we blaming everybody. And if you go back, even in Genesis in the beginning, if you go back and look at it, when God gave the instructions to Adam and Eve about not to eat into the garden of Eden, not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and when Eve brought Adam the apple and they both partaked in it, when God came back and there was time for accountability, Adam said, "The woman you gave me." And it was funny because when he bit from the knowledge of good and evil, sin entered the world, and then the first interaction with God after sin entered the world, Adam blamed God for a decision he made. How much we do that just when every day? How much we blame our mama for something, blame somebody else, a coworker for something. You know, we blame our boss. I don't like my boss. My boss this, that, and the third. You know, my boss this, my boss that. Well, your boss on you because you turn in your work late. You're not showing up to work on time. You're not being studious. You're not a good employee, but it's your boss' fault. And y'all see what I'm saying? Like, it's power in taking ownership of that. Power in taking ownership of, you know what? Why am I being written up? Why is my boss on me? You know, what lesson do I need to learn out of this situation where I can grow on? Especially those, and there's a lot of people that find themselves in the same situation every year or every few months. You go from this job to this job to this job to this job, and you having the same issues, but it's every 4 jobs, it's all these other people that's the problem, but you're not looking at you, the common denominator, and that's you. So when we gonna take ownership of that? When we gonna take ownership of the roles we play? You know, and this thing is real. I'm talking about this thing is deep. There's a lot of people right now who consider, I'm gonna say this. There's a lot of people that consider parents, other parents, to be deadbeat parents, but not acknowledge that they are nasty people and they are petty and they do everything they can to just try for control and try to get at the other parent and use the child as pawns. They would never take ownership of that, but they would sit back and on their own merit try to act like they're the ones that they the victim. No, take ownership of the role you played. Yeah, I had an attitude. I wasn't good to talk to. You know what? I was very selfish at that point. I was very selfish. You know what? I ain't easy to deal with. I'm not easy to deal with. And actually do something about it. Like, stop taking pride into knowing we have deficiencies, but then being so prideful that we ain't trying to do nothing to fix them. That ain't cute. That's not cute at all. Matter of fact, no, that ain't cute. And I'm not even talking about cute. That's just not good. And because what that does is perpetuates the same damage that go on to those that close around, especially our kids. So when we start talking about this stuff, and we can start talking about it from small things all the way to big things, but you know, we got so many people, and you look at the complexities that we have in life and situation, it's all boils down to a lot of people do not want to take ownership of the role they played. God told Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They ate from the tree under the influence of Satan, the serpent. And the first thing Adam did was, well, God, the woman you gave me. That's just like my parents buying me a car, and I drive the car and I speed and I get a ticket. And I tell them, well, y'all got to pay that ticket because y'all bought me the car. No, that don't even sound right. Got to take ownership of your action. I remember when I said earlier about you know, sharing about my mom and the time that I did something with my sisters and I got, my mama told my butt up, but she told me she considered me a man. That was something that stuck with me. And I kind of don't get it twisted, man. I still have stuff that I struggle with. I'm not talking about this from a position of that I don't have, like, we ain't gonna have issues with this. We're not gonna have our shortcomings with it. No, I'm talking about just from a position of changing the mindset to be like, you know what, I'm gonna deal with it. I'm gonna take ownership of what I did. I'm not gonna blame other people for my actions. I'm not gonna blame other people for my actions. Miss Patricia Bell said, take ownership about your own actions. Yes. Taking responsibility means that I have to let people see the real me. Well, I mean, the reality is people see the real you anyway. And if we really be honest with ourselves, people see you. They know who you are. They know if you're genuine. They know if you're consistent. They know if you're dependable. They know if you lie all the time. They know if you fake. People already know that. It's all like we wasting so much time and energy trying to convince other people what they already see. If you think about it. Think about it. It doesn't matter. And that's why I say it doesn't matter about how much money you got, what position you have, what level of influence you have. None of that stuff matters. People will see you for who you really are, not for who you want them to see you as. So I really learned a while ago not to worry about how people see me, how people perceive me, and doing my best to be authentically me, but be transparent to the point to where I can apologize to you when I've done wrong. I can come to you and have humility and be like, hey, bro, I was wrong. I was wrong. And that takes you deciding that you want to be quote unquote real or not. It says easy. Mr. Pep said, Cleophas Pep says, easier to blame others than it is to take responsibility for our part we play in the situation. It's not natural for us to blame us. I like that. It's not natural for us to blame us. Don't get me wrong. There are times when others may be the reason for our shortcomings, but sometimes it's us. And I will tell you, a lot of times it's us. And this is why I say this. And I want to get down to this thing, and I want to talk to this thing on a practical level, or on a logical level as well. There's a lot of things that were done, and we start talking about, like, just say infidelity, and I'm talking about hurt, betrayal, all of these type of things. Talk about infidelity in a relationship. Somebody cheated on you, and they hurt you. That hurt you. You had to you got to deal with the shame of it. You got to deal with the knowledge of knowing it, and that hurt you. That's just and that just devastated you, right? Now, I want to be honest. I'm not saying this is not a justification for anything, but in that relationship, what role did you play that contributed to that? Now, some people are going to do what they want to do, period. I'm not saying that, and I don't want nobody to take this from that. No, but there are a lot of cases, in many cases, where people willfully neglect those that they're in relationships with, take people for granted, not appreciate the people that they with, and then push them to a point to where they go and do something that is a bad thing, but never take ownership for their actions that contributed to that. They won't take ownership for it. They always the victim. Oh, well, this, that, like, no, I'm just being honest with you. And listen, this is stuff we don't like talking about, especially from the church perspective. We don't like talking about it from the church perspective. Because guess what? This is taboo. This is taboo stuff, but stuff we know that goes on. The Bible even talks about it. The Bible talks about a husband and wife, and I'm speaking from the perspective of a husband and wife. Husband and wife should be apart only for an agreed period of time for fasting and praying. I'm talking about, when they talk about apart, I'm talking about intimately apart for an agreed period of time for fasting and praying. Now, a lot of people like to, that doesn't mean when you go in there, that doesn't mean that just because I can be like, well, baby, I'm gonna fast for the next 6 months. If we ain't agree on it, I still have I still have some obligation as a husband to tend to the needs of my spouse, my wife. Like there's some obligations. And the Bible said it should be immediately come back together after that agreed period of time, lest to not leave any room in for the devil to tempt somebody. But we will do that. We will just willfully neglect and just hold out and not do this because we mad for this, that, and the third, and then turn around and want to play the victim when somebody leave us. We want to play the victim when somebody walk out on us. We want to play the victim when Susan May or Billy Bob come in and start filling the role that you're supposed to fill. But you willfully chose not to do it, and then turn around and play the victim. Like we got to start taking ownership of the roles we played in unfavorable situations. What does that do in that? That means that, okay, guess what? If there's a potential for reconciliation, that you can identify the behavior, the unwarranted behavior that you conducted, and you can start taking inventory of it and say, you know what, I need to do this different. I need to reset and reprioritize some stuff. I need to do that. And guess what? We don't like talking about this. We don't like talking about these type of things. Guess why? Because now it takes away the pity party that we feel like we getting when we the quote unquote victim. We'll get some comments. My mom said, like the king wearing invisible clothes. Those not taking responsibility think that they are invisible. That is, you wearing invisible clothes, all right. Miss Paige Banks, he said, at one point, my shortcoming was blamed on everyone but me. But when my children came along, I saw the difference between me owning up to my responsibilities than blaming somebody else for what I did. It's growth, and I'm still growing. Miss Paige Banks, thank you for that. I really appreciate you sharing that, because guess what? It's so natural, like Mr. Pep said earlier. It's so natural to blame other people, for your state of your happiness, blame other people for where you at in life, like blame other people for your financial situation, blame other people for where you came from, blame other people for all this stuff. And the reality boils down to you are where you at as a result of your decisions. If you are young, still under the care of somebody else, coming out of that, I get it. I understand that you hadn't had a chance to really, excuse me, you hadn't had a chance to really put forth a lot of things to make to bring about the change that you desire. But bruh, you 30, you 30 knocking on 40, and you still blaming other people, bro. That's you. That's you. You're in the financial situation that you're in right now because you got bad spending habits and you don't want to change those spending habits. You don't want to change your mentality of how you view money. Or you in a situation where you're in right now because you feel that you have been you automatically start off at a disadvantage, and things should be equal. Okay, but you spend your whole life mad because things aren't equal instead of taking advantage of the opportunities that you have to make it better for not only yourself but those that come after you. And that's what I'm talking about. Like a lot of these unfavorable situations remain unfavorable because we're not willing to take ownership of what we do or haven't done. We do or haven't done. There's power in unity. There's power in a lot of things. But one of the things that we got to do is we got to first own up. Miss Cleophas said, preaching, Miss Valeda Payne's Bates said, she said, you telling the whole truth. And that's what I was talking about. But that's what the Bible says about husband and wife. And I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna go ahead on it. A lot of people don't like talking about it, man, but a lot of stuff that we deal with is because we don't want to own and we want to blame other people. And this is how you know that you're in that space. You're perpetually upset and frustrated because you want to blame other people, but you are so like against anything that points back to you taking ownership of it. You know, and a lot of us, man, we destroy relationships. We destroy a lot of different things because we don't want to change. We don't want to change. And we don't want to change because we want others to adjust, but we don't want to adjust. I was watching I love watching Gordon Ramsay Nightmare Kitchen. And here in Kansas, on the, they got one of those smart TVs, so it's just like play repeat on one of the channels, and I just be sitting there watching the episodes. And one of the things that has been like what I've been really liking about it is, I didn't like Gordon Ramsay before because I thought that a lot of his antics were disrespectful, until I really started watching these shows here and seeing that his antics aren't really disrespectful. He's being candid with people and telling people a reality, because guess what? It's not personal. He's just telling them the truth about things. Like, they call him and say, hey, we need your help. Then he get there. I remember a few episodes, he was like, so how would you rate your food or whatever? Oh, it's an 8 out of 10. It's 8 out of 10. And he said it's not even an 8 out of 100. Now that's funny, but the food was terrible. They have people in there and they didn't want to listen. They didn't want to take responsibility for them having bad attitudes, them having too much on the menu, them not treating their employees right. See, they didn't want to take responsibility for that. They wanted somebody else to come in and fix it, but they didn't want to take responsibility for the role they played to guide it in the condition that it is. And that just made me think about how a lot of us are, and even myself, how we are at times in our lives. Miss Paige Banks said, I remember when I was younger, drank some alcohol and got drunk. My mom said it was my fault. I said my older siblings gave it to me. My mom said, did they make you drink it? I said, no. She said, well, you going to get this whooping because you knew better. And I love that, because think about it. Oh, they gave it to me. Did they make you drink it? They put a gun to your head and make you drink it? Nope. Well, you knew better. And you had to deal with the consequences for your decision. See, the problem is we want to blame other people for the consequences of the decision that we make. We want to blame other people for the consequences of the decisions we make. So I'm gonna come down your avenue right now. You mad at your baby daddy because your baby daddy ain't good. Your baby mama ain't good. They ain't doing what they supposed to do. They irresponsible. They ain't in the child's life the way that they should be. They ain't get irresponsible overnight. What role you played in that? What role you played? Like, seriously, what role did you play? You picked them. You chose to lay down and conceive a child with them. But see, we don't want to talk about that. We just want to talk about everything else. All right, once we start owning that I made that decision, okay. Now it's so a lot easier to say, you know what, I'm going to do what I need to do, whatever in this situation, to move forward. Because guess what? I played a role to it in this. So just the ability to take ownership for what we do, ownership of the role we played, because everything ain't your fault. I remember going through a divorce, and I'm like, man, wasn't it? And being told great husband, great father. And I'm like, dang, what? And you had to realize, like, okay, all right. Some things, like, sometimes, especially when you're talking about relationships, sometimes we have to address the fact that we become enablers. We enable people to act certain ways. even though their intentions may be good, but we enable them to act certain ways. And the reason why we enable them to act certain ways is in our hearts and our minds, we just feel like, hey, we're doing what we're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, you still made that decision to do it. So am I going to have a woe is me mindset, or am I going to accept the fact that I chose to continue to do what I do? And once I did that, it made it a whole lot easier. Like, I don't feel like I lost anything, because everything I did it from a place of where I wanted to do it. So that helped me on my process to healing myself, forgiving the other person, and moving on with life. Like, that's the reality of when you take ownership. The power in taking ownership of the role we play is it puts the control back into your hands. When we don't take ownership of the role we play, the control is in the hands of other people. It always will remain into the hands of other people. That's why it's so imperative that we take ownership, no matter how big, how small, that we take ownership of it. Because guess what happens? We'll start to see that we can start controlling a lot more of what goes on in our lives and not be so dependent on other people. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, man. I wanted to jump in and talk about this thing because so many of us, we like to pass the buck. I'm no longer passing the buck. You know, the reason why you didn't get that degree because you quit school. And the reason why you quit school is because you wasn't willing to prioritize or go to class. Man, look, when I went to Alabama A&M out of high school, man, I ain't never go to class. I chose to do that. And I'm finna share this. I'm about to be as transparent as possible. I never went to class. I was preoccupied into some extracurricular activities outside of my classroom studies. I'll put it to you in that politically correct way. But with my preoccupation, there was decisions that I made for things to do what I wanted to do. The results of that was I end up being put on academic probation and also end up getting kicked out of school for a semester because of my academic performance. Did I have the ability to perform academically? Yes, I did. Did I perform? No, I didn't. So guess what? I sat there and looked at it. I knew that going back home to Greensboro, there wasn't a lot of job opportunities. And I ended up giving my life to Christ and divinely was directed to join the military. And I was gone within like 2 weeks after returning home. I left and I've been in the military for 21 years since then. But guess what? With the decision that I made not to go to class, my parents weren't paying my college education. My college education didn't cost my parents one dime. I took ownership for my actions on that because I knew that those were my decision. It wasn't their decision. It was my decision. And with my decision, with me making that decision, I said, nah, that ain't going to be on them. That's going to be me. So that's what I did. They ain't making me nothing better than anybody else. I'm just saying my decisions led to consequences, and those consequences, the results of those consequences fell on my shoulders, not on other people's shoulders. Ms. Paige Banks said, she said, we definitely have to teach our children about owning up to their responsibilities. It's important because they will blame someone for everything until they learn better. Ms. Paige Banks, I couldn't echo that even more. And I would tell you, and I made a post, I think yesterday, like no matter how good we think our children are, if we don't hold them accountable, or make them take ownership for their actions, they'll eventually become somebody else's problem to deal with. And being somebody that's on the professional side in the workforce, and we get thousands of hundreds of thousands of people, kids coming into the military, I would tell you, you see a lot of them that struggle with never been held responsible for their actions. You got grown folks that never been held responsible for their actions. That hate, quote unquote, being held accountable because they feel like it's conflict. They feel like it's confrontational. No, that you just no, that's accountability. And those are lessons that are a lot easier to learn as a young person than as is as an adult. Because the older you get, the harder the lesson got to be before you're willing to change your mind. So I agree with you, Ms. Paige Banks, that we got to teach people on up to the things that they're responsible for. So I just challenge everybody to continue to look at really the power and taking ownership of the roles you play in every area in your life. Like your marriage is not good. What role are you actually playing in it? Or is it just everything is your spouse's fault? What role are you playing? Like seriously, like what role are you playing? Have you buckled down and said what you're not gonna do? You know, you having the relationship with your child has deteriorated, and you're not even on speaking terms. What role did you play? The relationship with your siblings has deteriorated. Always negative interaction. What role did you play? Despite, what role did you play? Like, and those are the things where we sit down and like seriously sit down, not try to justify, say like, dang, wait a minute. What am I doing or not doing that's contributing to this? What am I doing or not doing that is contributing to this? And not only just, oh, well, I'm doing this, but actually, okay, I know I'm doing this, and now I know I need to make changes to change that. But that's a whole nother conversation about willingness, because willingness is all about, that's a whole nother conversation. But we need to take inventory of what roles are we playing to those areas, those unfavorable areas, unfavorable situations in our lives. What roles are we playing? What roles are we playing? What role you playing and you not saving money like you want to save? You say you want to save money, but you don't feel like cooking. You want to eat out all the time. You don't want to meal prep. These are tangible things, right? These are things where when you sit down and you start having these conversations, you start talking about it. This is the stuff that when we start identifying and start making changes, that's when we start to see a difference in the quality of life that we live. And a lot of people are miserable. Miserable because we perpetually want to blame somebody else because it's a dangerous thing to have a person that never really takes responsibility for their actions. And this is how this is a dangerous thing. This is how when you interact with somebody like that. Then they rarely, if ever, genuinely apologize. Their apology would be something like, I'm sorry, but if you feel offended, I apologize. You know what you did. Well, I ain't apologizing. I'm not doing this. Or that it's always something you did is why they didn't do, or why they did something to you or to others. So you got to be careful in looking at that. And that comes from a place of hurt. I'm going to share this and we're going to close out. But, I want to talk about, and I think we can have this conversation, but there's a huge difference between being able to hear from the ears of somebody that's hurt or wounded and somebody that's healed. Because when you hear from wounded ears, hurt ears, you hear from the perspective of your, through the lens of your pains of your past. And it has the potential to sabotage the blessing or the promises of your future, because it blurs your vision and your level of understanding in the present. And I hope y'all really understood what I just said on that one. Don't allow the wounds of your past to impact your present and sabotage the promises of your future. So, hey, Mr. Pep says sometimes we have been a certain way for so long, we really don't see nothing wrong with self. I would say this, and Mr. Pep, that is a true statement. I would also add to that it's not so much that we don't see nothing wrong with it. Everybody just adjusted in our bubble to tolerate it. So we became comfortable in the bubble in which we created. That's why it's hard for some people to cohabitate with others. It's hard for some people to cohabitate with others. The reason why is because things always have to be about them, their way, and how they want it. And if it's not their way or how they want it, then it's disrespectful, or not only disrespectful, but it's an issue. And just wanted to share that because they know it's something wrong. They just don't want to acknowledge it and get some help. And when you get people like that, I'm not telling you can love people through certain things, but some things you just probably have to wipe your hands with it and move on, because don't let other people take you down because they refuse to heal. So again, man, I really appreciate everybody, your continued support. Really looking forward to, I want to have some guests on in the next coming weeks. I truly want to I want to ask everybody to continue to pray for a good friend of mine, Pastor Matthew Miller. I pray that God continue to heal him. I pray for healing mercy, and I pray for his family, that God gives them strength to endure this time. But his name, Pastor Matthew Moore. I mean, not Matthew Moore, Matthew Miller. I ask that you guys pray with me and lift him up in your thoughts and your prayers. He's pastor out of Katy, Texas. Me and him served together. I know I brought him up last week, but I'm believing God on his behalf. And I challenge you guys to encourage somebody. I've been making it a point to encourage people, reaching out to people, because I understand the power of an encouraging word. It can be the difference between life and death to some people. So just reach out to people, man. Random. Reach out to them. It don't matter. Just send them a text message, call. Just send them an encouraging word and let them know that you see them. Give them that push, to write the book or do whatever, or to, go after their dreams, to start their business, to do whatever their project is, to do that hobby, to whatever it may be. Encourage them. Let them know that you see their growth. You see their efforts. You see their sacrifices. Reach out to people and just tell them you appreciate them. It goes a lot. It has a bigger impact than what you think, and it doesn't cost you anything. So I challenge you guys that this week, if you can send it out to 5 people, if 4 people send it out to 5 people, that's 20 people. If those 20 people send out to 5, that's 100. Those 100 send out to 5, that's 500. Those 500 send out to 5, that's 2,500. Y'all kind of see where I'm going? Those 25 send out to 5, that's 1,250. Those 1,250 that send out to 5, that's 60,000. Those 60,000 that send out to 5, that's 300,000. Those 300,000 sent out to 5, that's 150,000. Y'all kind of see what I'm saying? And we can just have that impact if people just do it. It's not about no recognition. This is not about a hashtag. This is just about reaching out to people, touching their lives, and letting them know that you appreciate, encourage them. Hey, keep doing what you're doing. Hey, I know, hey, I know you talked about going back to school. Hey, go ahead on and do that. Just do that. And I promise you, your day will feel better. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Remember, we got to take ownership of the role we played into us being in uncomfortable, unfavorable situations. Once we learn to take responsibility for that role, I promise you, life becomes so much easier to navigate because we own it and we're not running. When you don't take ownership, it leads to somebody else controlling you. So I got an idea for next week's show. I'm gonna reach out to some people. Hopefully, I can get them locked in to be a special guest. I know that next week, the subject that I'm the subject that I'm thinking about, a lot of people may want to tune in on this one because this is something that it'll be very interesting, dealing with a dynamic of men and women from a relationship perspective and from a healing perspective. So you guys, thank you guys so much. I pray that you guys have a wonderful day. And I really, really do appreciate all of the tuning in and support. Make sure you like and you share this post. Let some people know what we've been talking about. And this is Robert Shepard coming to you guys from the conversation. Another week, episode 42 is in it, and you guys have a blessed and wonderful evening. Thank you.